Hey, let me ask your opinion on something. A big stink was made this past week because good old Rex Reed, the smarmiest of smarmy critics, wrote a review about Identity Thief with Jason Bateman and Melissa McCarthy. He didn't like it. Most critics don't. But he writes in such a gossip rag way that the focus of his review essentially was how completely overweight and hippopotamus-like Melissa McCarthy is. I mean, these were his observations.
Oh, it's obscene. It's
an obscene review. Obviously, he crossed the line, and he frequently does. I remember him saying that Frank Sinatra was, I don't know, he insulted Frank Sinatra's appearance years ago, and I remember Jerry Lewis wrote him a nasty letter in defense of Sinatra. And this is just his MO. This is how he writes. But is there kind of a limit on taste? Should the physical appearance of an actor be off limits?
Oh, definitely. I think so. You could talk about like an actor like being miscast in something. Maybe they're not right for a role or whatever. And that might have to do with their look or whatever. But to just attack somebody for just, their ears stick out too far or what, this is ridiculous. This is not what film criticism is.
Okay, so say someone thinks that an actor is miscast because he or she is too heavy. Is that off limits to make that observation?
Well, it depends on the role, I think.
It depends. I mean, if they're playing Kate Moss, if Melissa McCarthy was going to play Kate Moss, then maybe we might have something, but I don't think anyone would have let that go to the point where they start wasting film on that movie. Let me tell you this. I think Rex Reed...
Who would you cast as Kate Moss? Joaquin Phoenix? Who would that be?
Harmony Korine, maybe. Harmony Korine, I would cast as Kate Moss. No, let me say something else. I think this is what Rex Reed demonstrates with a review like this is detrimental and damaging to all of us, because he does. This is what people think of. Unfortunately, the general public does think of a film critic as just a nasty person. And he does film criticism no favors. He gets Armand White off the hook with this review. He makes Armand White seem like he's just tight with this review, because Armand White would never go after anyone for their physical appearance or this is really, to me, Rex Reed has done, all these film critics, all these great established critics who have been laid off over the years, who, on the web. He does not do the medium any good with a review like this. He really he confirms people's, they're just nasty, bitter people. Rex, with every review he does this, but with this one, attacking an actress because of her weight, it was really just disgusting.
He's been around forever. But he really writes in like a TMZ style.
Oh, he does. You're right. Yeah.
Can I ask you this? But do you think when people think of they say film critic, and something pops into their head, a picture of a film critic pops in their head, do you think that it might be something like Rex Reed, like somebody who's just there just to tear things down? Because that's what he does. I mean, he doesn't say positive things about. He says positive things, maybe 5% of the time, and they're
I
usually
agree. And when he does tear something down, I mean, he's so over the top about it. He's like, you'll want to gouge your eyes out. I mean, it's not really critical thinking at play. He can't tell you what's wrong with something as much as just throwing in all this hyperbole. It's just
I want to saw. This movie makes me want to saw my own head off.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing. When he writes a review like this and it's picked up on all the wires and everything, and it goes, in this day and age, that's not hard to do. But when you really don't do this, and it's a very important writing process. Film criticism, any kind of criticism is very important. But when you do this, you reconfirm every negative stereotype of film criticism. When you do this, you do bring in the John Lovitz, the critic. You sort of almost like make, oh, this is legitimate. This is what we do. We're just nasty, bitter people, and it's nothing like that. That's the sad thing. It would be wonderful if more people thought of Roger Ebert or Manohla Dargis or Kim Morgan or Stacey Wilson or what have you. But unfortunately, unfortunately, it's Rex Reed is the sad thing. Is he wins out in this thing, unfortunately.
In all fairness, when people picture a critic, I think the most world-famous critic we have is Roger Ebert. So
I was going to say that, yeah.
And Roger Ebert does represent someone that is extremely fair-minded, and you genuinely get the sense that he wants to like every movie.
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely.
And that's what every film critic should be, by the way.
Yes.
There are other film critics out there. I've had this discussion at the New York Film Festival with Tony Dayub. And he was who does this great website called Cinema Viewfinder, and we talked about some of the people that he had been talking with, and he didn't mention any names, and I'm not going to, but he said yeah, some of the people that I meet are just there just with a chip on their shoulder when they're watching the movie, and they're like, okay, impress me, when the movie starts or whatever,
right.
And it's like. But and then we said, he and I agreed that what we do when we sit down and watch a movie is, I'm ready for something great. Give me something great. I want to love what you're giving me. I want to love it. I'm ready to love you.
I can see you could have attacked this movie and said, I really liked Horrible Bosses. I like Jason Bateman's, work in Horrible Bosses, and Arrested Development. I liked Melissa McCarthy. We're working Bridesmaid, and this just wasn't up to snuff. There was no reason to. It just is a nastiness to attack
he called her a hippo.
Oh, it's disgusting. It was just,
it's
come
not
on.
even funny. It's not even funny. No. It's not even creative or whatever. He said that she was tractor-sized or whatever. Well, that's a little creative, but it's not even. It's not even. But really, I mean, it's not even funny, and we already know that she's overweight, okay? We get it, What are you gonna start going after John Goodman? Oh, he's overweight. Oh, who cares? The filmmakers are using that actor, whatever their body size is. And by the way, I'm overweight, okay? And I find it incredibly offensive. And I find, if I was going to make one movie in my life, it would be about being overweight and how that has affected my life, And I find this to be a very thorny subject and something that's not, of course, ever talked about in movies. If you look at a lot of movies, by the way, you will notice. And you have to be overweight to notice this. So I understand if a lot of people haven't seen it. But in a lot of Hollywood movies, the overweight people who are cast in movies, and usually they're cast in small roles, one-scene things, maybe even they have one line or maybe an extra or something like that, because there's not a lot of overweight movie stars out there. When you see them in a movie, popping up anywhere, try to notice it. But a lot of the time they're cast in dolty roles. They're sort of cast as idiots, villains, cannon fodder. If you see an overweight person in a movie these days, 9 times out of 10, they're either going to be killed horribly, they're going to be portrayed as being someone to hate or someone to be laughed about or laughed at. Heavy deals with this. Heavy deals with this very well that no other film, I don't at least think, has dealt with very well. Well, I mean, there's also Fatso, which was done in 1980.
Oh, I remember that. I do remember that.
The only directorial movie by Anne Bancroft and stars Dom DeLuise, which I consider to be the great movie about being overweight.
Mm-hmm. I remember that. Yeah.
Maybe the only really. I like Heavy, but it has problems. But I have empathy for it, and I I like it.
It has a Boston Terrier in the movie. That's why it's a favorite of ours. No, that Boston Terrier went a long way.
What was a movie a couple of years ago called Terry that's really nice, too? It's a little independent movie with John C. Reilly.
I was thinking about that earlier today. It's really funny we bring this up. I was thinking about that earlier because I went to the theater to see that. It was actually playing around here. And that's a very great but uncomfortable film.
Exactly. I mean, there needs to be, given that weight is such a tremendous issue in our culture. I mean, it's tremendous.
Oh, yeah.
And,
I'm not going to argue with you.
It's a big-time talking point on so many levels.
Mm-hmm.
I think there needs to be, there's room for more movies about it. And given that, at least in America, a substantial portion of our population is overweight, I think it's something that needs to be talked about, and talked about with respect. And, also I want to mention another movie that was really great, The Fattest Man in Britain with Timothy Spall. And I love Timothy Spall because he's in so many movies, and yes, he's overweight and everything, but it's never something that's really mentioned very much in his movies. And, of course, he does a lot of movies with Michael Lee, my favorite director, and Mike Lee would never do something like this to even in something
and
like
his last name is Small, so there's an irony there.
No, it's
Spall
with a P.
Sorry. All right,
but even if you look, if fat people could take a joke at their own expense and everything, that's fine. But
by the way, Melissa McCarthy does. I mean, she has done movies and played scenes where the butt of the joke has been her weight, and a lot of the comedy of her character in Bridesmaids is the fact that this woman is uber confident and brash in spite of her weight.
I agree, and that's something that makes her kind of an extraordinary presence in Hollywood.